right, 25 minutes before 11 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Wednesday morning. John Fuller is here. He has not been here for a couple of weeks. So if the last couple of weeks you were trying to call in and couldn't get through, then this is a good time to call. Today is January 7th, 2015. Gosh, that would have been the first time I said 2014. I've been so good. It is the 7th day of January 2015. John Fuller is here, and the phone number to call in is 622-9622. Just take note that if we're talking about something and you want to change the subject to talk about your thing, that's what we want. We want you to interrupt us. So just so you know in advance, 622-9622. John Fuller is an attorney here in Ocala at the law firm of Fuller & Fuller, and we'll give you his contact information later on in the show. Good morning, John.
Good morning, Larry. Good morning to our friends who may be listening this morning. We have been absent the last couple of weeks because of the holidays, and I want to again wish everyone, I hope they had a happy holiday season and that they will have a very healthy, happy, prosperous new year in 2015. It's nice to be back live. We've had some folks that have called who are listeners at the office, and we always welcome that. If you have a case or you know someone who you think has a case or been injured, we're very happy to talk with you and see if we can help you as a client at our law firm, Fuller & Fuller. The office number is 352-547-4292, and we certainly encourage you to do that. This show, which we've enjoyed doing now for going on 3 years, is to talk about matters in general. We don't give specific advice, but it gives a great time to talk about the legal system, legal principles in general, and we appreciate your calls. So as Larry said, if you have an issue that you'd like to have some general discussion about, call us. And if you have something that is, you think you have a claim or a case because you've been injured, or you have some type of a commercial dispute or Social Security disability matter, those are matters that we all handle in our office and would be happy to set you an appointment. One of the things I noticed, Larry, as the old year wound down, I was watching one of the television shows that they do a look back on notable people, and it's kind of a sad note, the people who passed on during 2014. And I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take a moment of this time on our show to share with our listeners that we lost two very fine lawyers last year, Todd Hobson and Michael Johnson. I knew them both. I've known Michael Johnson since he started practicing law in 1992, as I recall. And Todd Hobson, both were far too young. They were good lawyers. More importantly, they were good people who cared deeply about their clients and the judicial system, and they shall be missed. And I just wanted to remember them and send out our sympathies to their families, and that their passing is certainly leaves an empty spot in our Bar Association.
The man who calls in from Life South each morning is Galen Unold from Life South, and he told us on Monday that he has jury duty. He was called to jury duty Monday and was selected for a jury tomorrow. So tomorrow, and he said it's a one-day trial. So is that typically the way it is? You typically know in advance how long a case is going to take?
Well, they try to give you the best estimate they can, and in most cases you can estimate. By the time you get to trial and it's actually going to trial, each side knows who the witnesses are and how many witnesses each side is going to call and about how long they'll take. You can't predict everything. Things come up in trials that require judicial review and analysis, sometimes out of the hearing of the jury, while legal arguments are being made that could not have been made before. Also, it's hard to predict how long one particular lawyer may take on cross-examination. You know how long you will be asking your witness questions,
Right.
but you don't know how long the other side will be on cross-examination. And sometimes he or she doesn't know, because you don't really, sometimes witnesses say things, despite the best preparation,
Right.
say things that are
Unexpected.
unknown or unexpected, yes. So, but generally you can, especially criminal court cases, you can usually predict, depending on whether it's a felony or a misdemeanor. Misdemeanors, which are less serious offenses, usually take less time, that sort of thing. So, by the time someone gets to being selected on a jury, the lawyers and the judge try as best as possible to tell them how long they expect them to be there.
I probably should know this, but when a jury finds somebody guilty, the next step is the sentencing. So, two questions: does the jury do they convene again to?
No, they have absolutely nothing.
They're
to do
done
with
once they.
The jury only determines the factual disputes and reaches a verdict.
Okay.
The determination of whether or not the individual has been proven guilty beyond and to the exclusion of a reasonable doubt is in the exclusive domain of the jury. Once they make a decision, if the defendant, the accused, is convicted, found guilty, then it shifts, and the judge, it's in his authority to sentence. Judges used to have complete discretion in sentencing anything up to the statutory maximum for that particular offense. Number of years ago, quite a few years ago, they adopted sentencing guidelines, and there are mixed feelings about them. One, they tie the judge's hand so that he doesn't have as much discretion. The good thing is that they hopefully provide some uniformity in sentencing, so you don't have a judge who's a very easy, lenient sentencer and another judge who's a very harsh sentencer, and two people who are charged with the same offense, same background. One guy gets the book thrown at him and the other guy gets probation.
Right.
Yeah, take our call.
Yes, sir. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Hey, good morning, John. Good morning, Larry.
Hey,
Good morning. How are you, sir?
I hope nobody's asked this yet, but I just got back in my truck and heard you on the radio. I've seen a lot of postings on social media about the DUI notice that you can put in a plastic bag with your driver's license and insurance card and hang it on the outside of your window. If you're at a checkpoint, you don't have to roll down the window. And I'm pretty sure it's an urban legend, but I've seen where people have shared responses from like different TV and radio stations indicating that, yeah, you can do it. You don't have to get out of your car. You don't have to roll the window down. But it seems kind of suspicious to me. I think it's one of these urban legends. I'll hang up and get the answer, guys, and always enjoy the show.
Okay, thank
you very much. I'm not familiar with what you refer to. I'll be quite honest with you. I haven't had occasion to review that law lately, and I have not read or heard of any such provision. I would find it highly unlikely that type of law would pass. I don't think law enforcement would be in favor of it.
Right.
And I don't think having a sticker on your window that puts out that kind of personal information would be very wise in this era of identity theft and that sort of thing. So I don't know. I can't give you any more insight into it than that. It may be something that some other state has experimented with or something, and the news picked it up, but I have not heard anything about it, and I'm not familiar with it.
Well, we are up against the break, so I'll look on Facebook and see if I can find it during the break. So we'll take a little break and be right back. Remember, John is here to answer your questions, so if you have one, call 622-9622. The break is kind of short. It's only about a 2-minute long break, so call us now, 622-9622, if you want to speak to John. Today's show is being 9 broadcast on January 7th, 2015. So if that's the same date on your calendar, you're listening to a live show, and we invite you to call 622-9622. We'll take that break and be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. It'll be mostly sunny today with temperatures ranging from the mid-60s to the lower 70s. Clear to partly cloudy, brisk and colder tonight with lows ranging from near freezing in a few inland spots to 46 along the coast. For tomorrow, clouds and some sun, breezy and cooler with a passing shower or two, mainly near the coast. Highs ranging from 53 to 63 across the region. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Joe Lundberg.
Here are the categories.
I'll take Mike Scott Plumbing for 1,000, please, Alex.
Answer. Daily double.
I'll wager 5,000.
All right. Here is the clue. PU is the type of this complication.
What is a sewage backup?
Yes, that's right.
It's all fun and games until something happens to you, like a septic system failure or a clogged drain or line, leaving you saying PU. But not to worry, Mike Scott Plumbing is there to get you out of that jeopardy and back on track. And they don't charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. From septic pumping to lawn irrigation to high-efficiency water heaters. At Mike Scott Plumbing, if water runs through it, we do it. Stop by one of the newly renovated showrooms in Hernando or Wildwood, or call today, 237-2888. That's 237-2888.
Mike Scott.
Your home is safe, or is it? AA Lock, Dock, and Security. The name has been a staple in Ocala since 1985. Do you have the right equipment in place to have peace of mind when you are at home or away? AA Lock, Dock, and Security has the right people to install and monitor your home or business. Call today for a free on-site security analysis. Call 867-1965. AA Lock, Dock, and Security, 219 Northwest 10th Street, 867-1965.
Good credits, bad credits. It's none of our business because we're not an auto dealer. We're not a bank. We're not your mother. We're OcalaForSale.com. Marion County's marketplace for cars, trucks, and SUVs. We've got thousands of sellers standing by to take your call. No middleman. But hurry, don't walk, don't run. Just sit down and log on to OcalaForSale.com. Prices and inventory change daily. Offer does not include dealer upcharge. Undercutting, rust-proofing, factory surcharge, or delivery fee. See website for details.
All right, 12 minutes before 11 o'clock, I was trying to look during the break for the thing that the caller was mentioning about the... Now, this, I don't know if this is real or not, but it says, we've created a flyer you can show to police during checkpoints and traffic stops. The idea is that you do not roll down your window, but rather press a flyer up against the window so police can read it. You show them your license and other papers through the window. And it says, the flyer says, I remain silent, no searches, I want my lawyer. That's what it says on the flyer. And then it says the New York, Florida, California, New Jersey, Ohio, and Arkansas versions are, I remain silent, no searches, I want my lawyer. Please put any tickets under my windshield wiper. And then it quotes a law, I guess. And then I have to show you my papers, not hand them to you. And then, thus, I am not opening my window. I will comply with clearly stated lawful orders. So,
who knows? Again, I don't know. I don't know that that's been adopted or enacted by the legislature or approved by any court. I think they are significant issues in that. Constitutionally, it's been held that law enforcement have a right to stop, get identification. If they don't roll down the window is tinted. How can they compare the picture on the driver's license with the picture of the driver?
This is the attorney in you.
I just think there's multiple problems with doing that. If anybody is reading that on the social media, I don't encourage that as a good resource for getting legal advice.
You just demonstrated once again how your mind works. That's great. Yeah, you're right. How would you be able to compare it?
Yeah, and Mapp versus Ohio, U.S. Supreme Court case, the Terry case. There are a number of cases that provide that law enforcement, as long as it's not an intrusive stop, have a right to stop someone and get positive identification. In fact, they call it a Terry stop.
Is that right?
Yeah.
The phone lines are open if you want to call John right now, 622-9622. And I guess this is on a lighter note. Usually you hear horrible news from the courthouse. I'm not saying this, I mean, this is an opinion type of thing. But this morning, the news about the ladies who got married for, I guess, the first lesbian couple in Ocala.
I saw that in the paper.
Well, that's, I mean, at least somebody didn't get killed, you know? It seems like a...
Well, it's the law of the land. It's had its judicial review. The appellate judicial system has spoken, and people just need to, I think, this is opinion, but it's the law. You need to respect the law, whether you agree or disagree with it, and move on.
The challenge to Ocala's courthouse might be because of the challenge to Duval County. Did you hear that story? Duval County decided no more marriages at all.
Sure.
So did Marion County. No more marriages at all because they didn't want to participate in the gay marriage. They can do the licenses, just not the marriages.
Right.
And I guess they're suing Duval. Somebody's suing the Duval County courthouse.
Well, you know, that's a discretionary act that was always, I think, done simply as a discretionary courtesy. There's no law that I know of that says a clerk has a duty to perform a wedding ceremony.
Yeah.
The fact that they historically did it is not something that I think would compel them to continue doing it. I know a number of years ago, before they did the addition to the courthouse, they were having hearings in the hallway. With judges sitting at a desk in a hearing in the hallway many years ago because they didn't have enough space. They were converting storage closets to little offices for people. It was horrible. So I don't know what the clerk's, his space limitations are. The weddings in the past, I've been in the courthouse hundreds and thousands of times, and maybe once every month or two, if that, you would see someone getting married at the clerk's office. I mean, this is not something, and a notary public can marry people in the state of Florida. So they can simply go contact any notary public that they want, and he or she are lawfully entitled to marry people. They can get married anywhere they can find a notary public. They meaning anybody.
Is the notary allowed to say no?
No, notaries is just like anybody else you hire. Sure, they're allowed
okay. I didn't know if they could be.
No, they have a right. I mean, to choose what activities they do as a notary. I mean, you can have a license to be a plumber and decide you don't want to take certain types of plumbing calls. I mean, that's a contractual thing. No, you don't have a duty to do that. And honestly, if I don't know what the reasoning behind it was. I certainly am not naive that maybe some people found that disagreeable, but I think clerks of courts who are constitutional officers have the lawful right to determine what discretionary activities their staff perform.
Yeah. Just to change the subject greatly, in the afternoon, Tom Schmitz, who does the Voice of Ocala program, he was on the air yesterday talking about his, I guess that's like a month-long battle with his insurance company over a car accident, I guess trying to settle for the dollar amount that he's looking for. That's probably the more common thing that an attorney would, the normal person would go to an attorney for, is if your insurance company is just giving you a hard time. Is it necessary though? I mean, or do we? I always
usually it is not necessary, and usually the attorney doesn't need to or get involved in a property damage dispute. Usually the appraisals are pretty straightforward, and most people want to close that out, get their property damage and move on. It's very rare that you end up in a battle over the value of a vehicle. Vehicles are just too easy to appraise. You have Kelley Blue Book, you have automobile appraisers, you have people who do collision and repair work. So it's usually not that big a deal.
And you do have another phone call. Good morning. You're on the air with John Fuller.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Fuller. I'm very, very proud to hear you on the air. I'm a former policeman, and I've always was excited to work with lawyers as a young rookie cop down in Miami. I have much respect for your self-discipline, which led you to your public service and your degrees and your respect for the law from a collaborative standpoint. But my question to you, Mr. Fuller, if you could speak to what we're up against here in the United States, which is labeled as big government, but we're really seeing the preeminence of privatization. Would you be in favor of the police in the United States being replaced by corporation police and judges being working for General Electric as well as a corporate, or Raytheon or whatever corporation would take over, and to include lawyers? I mean, lawyers defend our individual rights as individual citizens up against the various circumstances. I'd like to hear your personal opinion or your professional opinion, whichever, sir.
Well, thank you for calling, and thank you for your kind words. That's a very interesting question. I don't think that it could ever happen. Our judicial branch is created by our Constitution. We have three branches of government: the executive, the legislative, and the judicial. It derives all its power from the Constitution. It is a constitutional governmental branch, and I don't see how, under any set of circumstances, that private industry could privatize or take over the operation of a constitutional branch of government. It just won't happen. Can't happen, in my opinion. As far as the privatization of the bar, many lawyers go to work for industry, and that's their choice. But the legal profession are officers of the court, and they are governed by the rules adopted by the Florida Bar and enforced by the Florida Supreme Court. And I don't think, again, that the separation of powers clause, which says that the judicial, executive, and legislative branches must remain totally separate and distinct and perform their exclusive duties and responsibilities as enumerated by our Constitution. Lawyers are officers of the court. The court is a function of the judiciary. The judiciary exists by virtue of our judicial branch of government through the Constitution, both federal and state. So, no, I don't see that happening. I don't see anything positive that would come out of that. I think, and I don't want to get into this because it's beyond the scope of this program, but I think if you look into it and you talk to people in the medical profession, there's a tremendous change that a lot of people disagree with in what's happened to the medical profession as a result of corporate America's involvement in the practice of medicine. And governmental involvement in it to some extent. That, again, is beyond the scope of this show.
Yeah. And some of the changes, we were hearing that hospice now has new changes because of the new health laws. And I don't know if there's a legal way. Like if somebody, I think the way I understood it, you can only be in hospice 2 weeks before death. How do they know? How can they say for sure you got 2 weeks?
I don't know, and I have never looked into that. But I had a dear loved one who was in hospice for almost a month before expiring. So I really, the new Medicare, the new health care law, I forget how many thousands of pages are involved with that. And I have not read it. And,
no, I don't.
And
too many
I've had
people
no
have.
occasion to read it.
Yeah.
And I have other things to do than to sit there and plow through 7,000 pages of an act that may or may not be held constitutional, unless I had a client who had a standing for an individual grievance that gave rise to a potential case, that's not something that is productive.
John, what is your number? We've just about out of time.
It's 352-547-4292. Our 800 number for toll-free calls is 855-534-2565. The office is Fuller and Fuller.
And call us if you need that number repeated. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Larry.
This is WOCA Ocala.
News Radio, I'm Lillian Wu. Security forces in France are hunting for gunmen blamed for the country's worst terror attack in decades. 12 people killed in the offices of a satirical paper, Charlie Hebdo, which has printed cartoons of the Prophet Muhammad.
There is still intense police activity at the scene.